Under the burning light of Terra's sun, beneath layers of stone, adamantium, and history so heavy it bends the soul, stand warriors who have never known defeat, and yet have watched humanity lose everything. The Adeptus Custodes are spoken of as gods among men, as the Emperor's perfect guardians, as the final word in loyalty and martial excellence. But perfection is not the same as wisdom, and loyalty is not the same as salvation. This is not a story about how strong the Custodians are. This is a story about why their strength was never enough. From the moment they were created, the Custodians were not designed to win wars, they were designed to stand still. And that single truth explains nearly every tragedy that followed. The Adeptus Custodes were not meant to save humanity, they were meant to watch it. The Custodians predate the Imperium. They are older than the Legiones Astartes, older than the Primarchs, older than the Great Crusade itself. When the Emperor still walked among humanity as a warlord and a conqueror, before the galaxy burned with the promise of unity, he began crafting something entirely different from soldiers. Each custodian was individually shaped, altered at a genetic and psychological level so precise that no two were alike. They were not mass-produced. They were not optimized for expansion. They were not meant to inspire. They were meant to endure. They were built to be unbreakable, not because the Emperor feared enemies, but because he feared entropy. The Custodians were the Emperor's answer to time itself, where space marines could fall to corruption, ideology, or ambition. The Custodians were stripped of all such vulnerabilities. They possess no hunger for power, no need for recognition, no loyalty to anything but the Emperor's will. They do not dream of ruling. They do not dream at all in the way humans do. They are living constants in a universe defined by decay, but constants do not change. And in a galaxy where survival depends on adaptation, stagnation is a slow death. The Emperor did not create the Custodians to lead humanity forward. He created them because he did not trust humanity to lead itself. This is the core contradiction at the heart of the Adeptus Custodes. They are the Emperor's greatest achievement and his clearest admission of doubt. The Primarchs were made to conquer. The Astartes were made to fight. The Custodians were made to judge. Not in the sense of courts or laws, but in the sense of absolute, silent evaluation. They observed, they recorded, they stood beside the Emperor as he spoke of a future where humanity would no longer need gods, tyrants, or warlords. And yet he surrounded himself not with humans, not with equals, but with watchers who would never question him. The Custodians did not debate. They did not advise unless asked. They did not challenge strategy. They were not companions. They were sentinels. This matters because when catastrophe came, they did exactly what they were designed to do. They remained loyal. They remained obedient. They remained still. When the Great Crusade reached its zenith, the Imperium spanned the stars, and the Emperor withdrew to Terra. The Custodians followed him, not because Terra was safer, but because proximity was their purpose. They did not campaign. They did not command fleets. They guarded corridors and chambers, while their master pursued something far more dangerous than war. The Webway project was the Emperor's true ambition. A future without the warp, without chaos, without gods. And the Custodians stood watch as that future was built on a knife's edge. They knew little of its full scope. They asked no questions. They trusted absolutely. Then Magnus shattered everything, and here, the failure of the Custodians begins, not as warriors, but as guardians of consequence. The Webway breach. unleashed horrors beneath the Imperial Palace, demonic legions spilling into hidden tunnels, meant to save humanity from damnation. The Custodians fought. They fought with a ferocity unmatched. They bled and died in numbers never before seen. And still, they held. But holding is not the same as winning, and while the Custodians were locked in an endless subterranean war, the galaxy burned above them. The Horus Heresy erupted, the Primarchs turned, the Imperium fractured, and the Emperor, bound to the Golden Throne, was forced to choose survival over victory. The Custodians did not fail because they were weak. They failed because they were where the Emperor told them to be, doing exactly what they were designed to do. This is the uncomfortable truth that many fans overlook. If the Custodians had abandoned Terra, if they had taken command, if they had acted independently, if they had questioned orders, the heresy might have unfolded differently. But the Custodians are not beings of might have, they are beings of must. Their loyalty is absolute, and absolute loyalty is indistinguishable from paralysis in a crisis that demands moral judgment. The Emperor did not want generals who could disagree. He wanted guardians who would never betray. And in doing so, he ensured that when betrayal came from others, his most powerful protectors would be incapable of preventing it. As the siege of Terra began, the Custodians emerged into a nightmare. They fought, traitor Astartes, demons and gods made manifest. They slew champions who would have annihilated entire armies. But again, they did not decide the fate of the Imperium. They reacted to it. Their role was defense, not direction. When the Emperor fell, mortally wounded by Horus, the Custodians did not scream. They did not rage. They did not seek vengeance. They carried his broken body to the Golden Throne and sealed the palace. This moment defines them more than any battlefield victory. The Custodians did not save the Emperor. They preserved what remained, and in doing so, they became wardens of a corpse empire they did not believe in. After the heresy, the Imperium transformed into something unrecognizable. The imperial truth died. The ecclesiarchy rose. The Emperor became a god. The Custodians watched all of this with silent disdain. They do not worship the Emperor. They never have. They know what he was, they know what he wanted, and they know how completely it failed. This creates a unique, tragic position within the Imperium. The Custodians are the only faction that truly understands the Emperor's vision, and must enforce a reality that mocks it. They guard a throne that was never meant to exist. They protect a system built on lies the Emperor despised. They do not intervene, because intervention is not their purpose. This is where the Custodians diverge from Space Marines in the most fundamental way. Astartes are shaped by belief. Custodians are shaped by certainty. They do not need faith. They do not need hope. They need orders. And for 10,000 years, the Emperor has given none. So they wait. They watch Terra rot under bureaucracy, corruption, and fanaticism. They watch High Lords squabble. They watch trillions suffer. They watch wars lost that could have been won with decisive action, and they do nothing, not because they are blind, but because they are loyal to a silence. If you think this is strength, or if you think this is weakness, let me know in the comments. Because whether the Custodians should have acted long ago is one of the most divisive questions in all of Warhammer lore, and there is no easy answer. The return of Robout Guilliman shattered this long stasis. For the first time since the heresy, a being who remembered the Emperor as he truly was walked the halls of Terra. Guilliman saw the Custodians not as relics but as wasted potential. He challenged their isolation. He forced them back into the galaxy, not to rule, not to conquer, but to observe once more as reality burned. This did not change the Custodians. It exposed them. The Adeptus Crusade did not awaken their ambition. It reaffirmed their purpose. They fight now, yes. They kill enemies of mankind across the stars. But they do so as extensions of duty, not as leaders of a renewed Imperium. They are still watchers. They still judge silently. They still refuse to become what humanity needs most: decision-makers. The Adeptus Custodes represent the Emperor's ultimate paradox. He wanted humanity to be free of gods, yet he became one. He wanted unity without tyranny, yet built an empire on conquest. He wanted progress without faith, yet left behind a civilization that worships ignorance. And he wanted perfect guardians who would never betray him, without realizing that betrayal is sometimes the only force that creates change. The Custodians are incorruptible, but they are also incapable of rebellion. And rebellion in the Emperor's own history was the engine of progress. They stand eternal, clad in gold, untouched by time, and that is their curse. They cannot fall, they cannot rise, they can only endure. As long as the Emperor sits silent on the golden throne, the Custodians will stand watch over a dream that died 10,000 years ago. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded too perfectly.